Maybe you have heard the name schema, but what does this concept mean? And what is its application in psychology? You have probably seen people who do not have any special mental problems, but they have extreme pessimism or optimism in their beliefs about life, as well as in interpersonal relationships. They do not enjoy the way they should. Usually, their relationships are not satisfactory to the extent they realize that they have a wrong behavioral pattern, they repeat it, and they are unable to change it. They are simply caught in a loop. We can use an example of a city map to understand the meaning of these repetitive patterns better. Imagine that to go to a destination, we have always used a certain route, which happens to be a dangerous or long and annoying one. If we see a more detailed map, we might realize that there are also other ways to reach the destination, but we haven't been aware of them. Schema is similar to these repetitive routes that we are not familiar with, but they automatically determine our life choices. First, let's see how schema is formed in our minds. All humans have 5 basic needs in childhood, namely security, independence, expression, play, and the need for restraint. The experience of meeting our needs in childhood is usually accompanied by an intense emotion such as great joy or anger, and it occupies a prominent place in our memory. Now, these needs are either properly and adequately met or they fail, or on the contrary, they are given excessive attention to. The way we deal with our needs causes a constant and repetitive pattern to form in our mind, so that in the following years, whenever we are in a situation similar to our childhood experiences, the same feelings are aroused again, and we perform almost identically the same way. For example, when we made our parents happy by getting good grades in childhood, we form this pattern that we have to show our impressive achievements to others in order to make them happy. Or when we object against something and it is not acknowledged by others, we avoid expressing dissatisfaction in similar situations. Thus, we try not to face the unkindness and indifference of the people. Even if we are dissatisfied with these behaviors as adults, and we know logically that we are making mistakes, we don't know why we forget what is the right behavior, even though we are now grown up and we happen to know what behavior is more useful. So, schema is the pattern that controls our behavior in similar situations. The reason is that our beliefs and perceptions have been integrated with our emotional memory during stressful times. Jeffrey Young is the theorist of schema therapy and has introduced various techniques in this approach. The question is, why do we use the term schema therapy? Do the schemas really need treatment? In fact, schema is completely compatible and useful. It helps us with things like expressing love to others or feeling grateful, or even feeling ashamed. But as mentioned earlier, sometimes because of the behaviors that caused inappropriate reactions, that is failing to get the required attention or getting excessive amounts of attention, wrong patterns are formed, which are called early maladaptive schema, or EMS in short. So schema therapy is for correcting and improving only the early maladaptive schema, not all of them. Changing such mental patterns may seem simple at first sight, but since these patterns are related to the basic emotions such as anger, fear, happiness, and sadness, their treatment may take up to months. Schema therapy is usually suitable for those who didn't find cognitive behavioral psychotherapies useful for them, and those whose problems become apparent in their relationships with others, including colleagues, family members, and in other situations due to ineffective communication styles. Also, this treatment is suitable for those who have some vague problems and repeat an inconsistent pattern several times. On the other hand, it may seem that they have a normal life, but they suffer from chronic and constant dissatisfaction and are trying to change their behavior fundamentally. The age of referral for this treatment is usually adulthood, and its practicality for children and adolescents is still under investigation. The techniques used in this type of treatment are partially based on cognitive behavioral therapy, but it mostly attends on reconstructing childhood needs and accepting damaged parts of our personality that we do not recall properly. So far, 18 forms of early maladaptive schema have been recognized, among which the scheme of abandonment, mistrust, defectiveness, failure, entitlement, compliance, as well as unrelenting standards can be mentioned. The correction and improvement of each schema needs several psychotherapy sessions with the active participation of clients. If you want to see a schema therapist, first make sure that you have the time and money. Also, be sure to give common psychotherapy methods, such as cognitive behavioral therapy, a try. If they don't work for you, move on to schema therapy because schema therapy is very time-consuming and it may take several years. It also requires your active engagement to do the practices of each session correctly in order to get a beneficial result.